Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a cool little strap showcase for you guys from Anchor Strap Company. They were founded by watch enthusiast Brando B. Delgado with the belief that every strap that they make really should be evoking a spirit of perseverance and strength, like sailors gripping tightly to rigging amidst a storm, hence the nautical theme of Anchor Strap. And you guys are going to see also the verbiage on their website to hold fast. Now, in terms of some of the straps we'll be featuring today, mostly nylon, NATO-style straps or some variation of that. We got their premium nylon, their hybrid nylon, as well as their Deployant nylon, which is a ribbed style strap, which is very, very cool. Also, kind of icing on the cake, we have one of their premium Sailcloth straps, which is very, very nice. And if you guys are fans of the channel, you know I've reviewed some of the finest premium Sailcloth straps, and this one is much more affordable. So that's pretty exciting. I've had a couple of people reach out to me about these brands, whether they be in the comment section or DMs. So when Anchor Strap reached out, I was really pleased to check out their stuff, and let them know kind of what I think of some of their designs. And right now it's this Deployant nylon that's doing really well for them. So I definitely wanted to showcase that in case you guys are thinking of maybe picking one up. So with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get these pieces in hand, and take a closer look. Okay guys, now before we dive all the way in, let's kind of separate things. But I did want to take a look at this because I have to say, I've had a couple of brands send me over their tools, and this one was actually really cool. I like that it's signed, but mostly I like that it's coated, because a lot of the times when you get one of these tools, they have all this grip cut into it and all this like fine machining. But what ends up happening is that you kind of worry about it touching the bracelets, touching the watch cases, and scratching them up. So I thought that was just genius that they had this coated. It's still grippy thanks to the grip there, but then otherwise the construction is very nice. You can see here that essentially you're able to kind of screw and unscrew, and then essentially that's what's going to tighten things down to hold the different tips. So I don't know, I thought that was pretty cool. Definitely something that if you're interested in getting one of these tools, I have to say that this one was very, very cool. And I can appreciate that it is coated. Let me know in the comments if you guys are the same way when it comes to, of this ultra grippy, ultra machined, models, which is great for, the tactile engagement. But unfortunately, you do kind of have to worry about scratching up your watch from time to time. So I don't know. I thought that was cool and worthy of sharing. So good job, Anchor, for that. All right. So we'll get this off to the side. Maybe we'll just leave it right here. Okay. So we have two watches that we have on strap today. One was more recently reviewed, which is going to be this Raven Trekker vintage model in the blue. And then also we have this Glycine Combat Sub 39 also in blue. And you can see both dark, deep blues. These are great. One is quite glossy and the other is going to have, quite a bit of, kind of a sunray finish and even a brushed finish there on that aluminum bezel insert. But I thought these would be really good models to kind of show, one, because they're both, pretty similarly themed, but still very different in terms of their execution, right? One being a little bit more of a kind of a modern mix there with a lot of gloss and of course getting some very nice, let me give it a quick little wipe here. Some really great sheen there from the ceramic and from that glossy dial. And then here, of course, you have a little bit more of kind of a playful dynamic layout. And here it also seems a lot flatter when you look at the indices and everything. And the watch itself is quite slender versus here, you're getting a little bit more depth and kind of dimensionality. I'm messing that up. Correct me. I know someone in the comments will do that because you guys are just extremely helpful, right? Yeah, I thought why not pair those here, and you can see we have a very nice sailcloth strap here, and you can see it is the loopless style, and it does have the Omega style deployant, which we've seen across quite a few different manufacturers as of late. And yeah, this is pretty nice quality, right? So, but we'll work our way up to this guy here because it's although it's not hyper expensive, it's the most expensive of the bunch. So why don't we start out with the premium nylon? So this is what you can expect for about $19. There's 13 different variations in terms of colors and patterns, and really their focus was to manufacture a quality strap that is nice and comfortable, and then of course try to compete with OEM straps at a fraction of the cost. So you guys can see they did take their time. They do have that sliding keeper here. They do have this nicely signed. Now the hardware isn't anything super crazy to write home about, but I will say, hey, they do have nicely milled tang buckle there. This is going to have a spring bar in it. I know some people aren't crazy about that because they want everything to be a closed loop and everything like that, but spring bar failure is something that can bother some and not others, just depending on their use case and how much they're really depending on those spring bars to hold everything together, right? But I think this is a nice one. It's nice and thin, beautiful sheen to it in terms of the blue, nicely signed. This hardware could probably be a little bit nicer, but you know what? At the price point, $19, it's actually probably nicer than it should be at that price point. And you also have the very nice branding there with the logo, I think very nicely executed. So you do have that. This is available in 20 and 22 millimeter widths, and which is great. And then you do have a 300 millimeter, or about 11.8 inches, including the buckle length there. So pretty nice. And then a 1.2 millimeter thinness. So it's going to be nice and thin, even though it does have that traditional dual pass layout. So the watch would sit up here. You'd have this kind of bracing against the back underneath. And then with that, essentially your watch wouldn't slide up and down because it has these keepers to stop it. So very cool. And again, more of the traditional styling, but just a little bit updated with things like that milled buckle and then the sliding keeper. Now, moving on to their next type of strap here, we do have their hybrid nylon. And I know some of you, when you start thinking hybrid, you start thinking, oh, well, does it have like a different backing for a different material type or something like that? And I will say that is not the case. By hybrid, the materials they're talking about is that it's a cotton and nylon blend. So that's going to be the fabric, right? So this is made of a textured kind of basket weave style nylon, that cotton nylon hybrid. So you're going to get better breathability, right? Because it's going to have just a little bit more of a porous style of weave versus the ultra tight, ultra fine, and beautifully satiny kind of sheen type of material there. So this definitely is going to be something that is going to be more on kind of the functional side versus the form factor. But the nice thing is some people will actually really like the way this looks, and some people might like this more rough and tumble styling depending on the watch that you're going to put this on. So like if you put it on a field watch or something with a textured grainy dial, that's something that could look really, really nice. It's going to have pretty much the same type of dimensions and everything as the other NATO here, the premium. So it's going to be available in 20 or 22, 300 millimeter length, or 11.8 millimeters, including that buckle, and only slightly thicker at 1.3 millimeters thick. These are going to go for $22, so slightly more expensive than their just standard premium nylon there. So 19 here, 22 here. Then moving our way up, we have these really cool Deployant nylon straps, and you can see the colors we have here. We have the gray right here, we have a navy bond, and the newer bond as well. And these are pretty smart, right? So you guys can see here without the clasp on there, pretty smart and simple layout, guys. These are available also in 20 and 22 millimeter lengths, and then widths. And then lengthwise, it's going to be about 9.4 inches long or 240 millimeters and have a 1.3 millimeter thickness. So this is meant to be kind of an elevated reimagining of the original military nylon strap, with the added comfort, of course, of it being single layer. So it's going to be quite thin on the wrist. And if you do have a thicker watch and you want to not add extra thickness, that's great. Or you have a thinner watch and you really want to accentuate the thinness, these are really, really nice options. So the really cool thing is that they are compatible with these Deployant style straps, as you guys can see. So when you put this on, it just adds a certain level of refinement, and it just feels really cool. And the nice thing is it's still having that closed loop setup. It's not adding a whole lot of thickness there, and I think it looks absolutely great. Let's go ahead and move these kind of out of the way, and then we can even tighten up the frame here so that you guys can get a closer look. So check that out. I think that looks fantastic. I really like these rib nylons. They definitely are coming more into style these days. I think it adds a nice bit of texture. And regardless of the style of watch, I mean, it's not like this dial has a ton of texture on it. But the nice thing is you're going to get a little bit more of kind of light play and color play. And you guys can see sits very nicely on the wrist. And it's very thin, but it has a certain amount of structure because of the rigidity of this weave. It's just this nylon that has the ribbed nature to it. Although it is quite thin, it's still quite tight, and it just has, again, a bit of a feel of structure to it. It's not floppy feeling or anything like that. So I think that's really, really cool, and I really enjoy this general concept. I think they executed really, really well. And then, of course, this style of, you don't have to buy this with that. But speaking of prices, with the Deployant, you can actually get this for $65, right? So that's pretty cool. You get the Deployant, and then you get a strap. Or if you want to get just the straps, here's where it gets really, really value rich, guys. Just $25 for either of these. And I know some of you might be thinking $25 without any hardware. That sounds kind of expensive, but you know what? At the end of the day, depending on what watch you're putting it on, that can be maybe expensive, or it can be super, super cheap by comparison. So I think they're nice. And again, you're getting a good bit of structure to these. They're not as floppy or something like as a standard nylon. Like if you see that just wants to like lay down, versus if we hold this up, it's going to bend, but like not nearly as much, right? So it has a bit of body to it, and it holds that body quite nicely. And I just think it's a pretty smart design. I think it looks good. And I know a lot of folks do enjoy the look of a pass-through, but they don't necessarily enjoy the extra thickness that might come along with a pass-through strap. So I think something like this is really cool. And then also everything is nice and neat. Everything's tidy. Everything's tucked away behind in terms of the extra tongue, versus here, yeah, you're going to have to there's going to stuff that's going to come back around, and you're going to have to, you put this through, and then you try to fold something back. And then if you don't put enough through, right, or your wrist is a little bit smaller, a little bit larger, it's going to depend on how much slack you have. So although this is a great aesthetic, and I really do enjoy it when it comes to something like this, where let's say, all right, and the nice thing is you do have that sliding keeper, right? Instead of having all this and trying to figure out where that's going to sit on your wrist, because the watch is going to be between here and here, right? So now you have all this offset. And again, for some people, that is part of the classic wearing experience. The nice thing is here, you're going to have now the clasp right on the underside. So very, very comfortable. But with all of that, let's move on to the star of the show here, which is going to be their most expensive model, and something that more people are going to ask about, just because a lot of the options that are going to be of a similar style are quite expensive by comparison. Now, this Sailcloth in the navy colorway goes for $95 with the Deployant, guys. So So under $100. And just the strap, if you already have your own Deployant or something like that, or maybe you bought another brand, or you have an Omega Deployant, an actual one, right? Or you just have a cheaper variation that you already sourced or something that came with like an FKM rubber strap. Who knows? You can buy these just for $55. And the nice thing is, you guys can see it has that nice backing here. And this is really, this is also available in 5 different colors, which is great. I forgot to mention that, this is just, one of the options, and there's color variations of all of these straps, right? But this is going to be just, these are just the few that they sent in very kindly. And I think this blue looks great. I like the white contrast stitching. Now, they don't have a ton of options in terms of like with the contrast, without the contrast. But I think this here does look quite handsome. Now, they really designed these to, cover style and durability. And I like that about these straps in general, regardless of the brand, right? I like the more upscale nature of Sailcloth. It looks well put together, but at the same time, it's also very, very capable in terms of its water resistance and its durability. So, these are really made for more of an enthusiast. I don't think somebody just randomly is going to want to buy one of these for $95. But if you know the market, you're going to know that $95 for something like this is actually quite affordable, especially when you consider, a nicely signed Omega style Deployant buckle. You're getting, of course, a nice backing there for extra durability and some pretty nice lining on the underside as well. And also everything is very nicely signed. So you have the 20 millimeter width that's available right now, and it does taper down to about 18 millimeters at this buckle here. And the lengths are going to be on the long side is going to be 100 millimeters and 97 millimeters on the shorter end. So depending on which way you look at it, which end is the shorter end or the longer end, it's a little different, right? Versus if you had a tang buckle. So as you guys can see here, though, they are very similar in length, and the difference between 97 and 100 millimeters isn't that different. But I'd like, again, that everything is just very, very tidy, and it just feels really great. And it's going to taper as well. So you're going to get here on the thicker side about 4.7 millimeters thick, tapering down to about 2.4 millimeters on the clasp end. So even though you're going to get multiple layers and you're getting, of course, that milled section there, it's not adding too much bulk when you look at this. Like, this doesn't look like it's going to, set any types of offsets of balance. And the nice thing is you do have, of course, more structure here with the more padded upper. And then as things come down, it's much thinner and more pliable. So with that said, let's actually get this on as well. So very nice here. Yes, and we'll move some of this just kind of out of the way. Let's not forget about this. We'll leave that there though. Might have rolled off earlier, but check that out. So this is just, I think, a very, very handsome look here, guys. And it's just quite cohesive. You can see very nice stitching there. Well put together. Everything is where it should be. But one of the reasons I did choose this particular Raven watch, which actually I just recently reviewed, if you are interested, definitely check the channel history, is because it has drilled lugs. Now, with the drilled lugs, I thought it was very important for this model because if you look at this, the structure on this is going to be quite stiff in a good way, because it's going to hold its form. But when you're trying to get in here with a spring bar tool and try to pry that out, it's going to be tough. And they don't have any cutouts, and they're not using quick release spring bars. So your best bet for something like this is going to, use this on something with drilled lugs just for the ease, right? If you're just going to put it on and leave it on, then absolutely, don't worry about that, right? But if you're somebody who likes to regularly swap out straps, bracelets, whatever it is, definitely, if you want to add to the longevity of this strap, because once you start really just jamming tools into there, the little pieces and the structures around the end are going to wear out a little bit more prematurely. So I do want to put an emphasis on that. So although yes, you are saving a bit of money, that would be kind of a small drawback there. And I mean, again, and that's based on use case. It might not be a drawback at all for others. And then another thing is, you know, a lot of, if you guys are fans of the channel, you've probably seen some more expensive variations of a loopless sailcloth strap on the channel. I will say, when it comes to comparing the fit and the finish on here with some of just the way that this is sealed and where the edges line up and everything, although I think this is perfectly done well, like this, there's nothing wrong with this by any means. I will say that some of those more expensive options do go the extra mile. So again, I'm not saying that these are done subpar or anything like that. I think these are done beautifully, even for the price point. I say especially for the price point. But if you're wondering what the difference between some of those more expensive straps are, it's going to be things like that, like being able to configure it with different types of you know, different types, which, you know, ends up increasing the cost as well. But different types of spring bars, different types of relief on the spring bars, right? Whether it be quick release or fatter spring bar, something like that. You don't really have those options here. And then some of the sealing around, you know, just the really, really close aspects of the fine finishing on the underside, which some people don't even care about, right? So that's just something to notice. But I will say that the clasp here is actually really well done. So although this is still going to be much cheaper, it's still nice. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not done to quite as high of a level. So I don't want somebody to see this video and go, oh man, now, you know, I can just get this and it is just as good as this, you know, $200 strap. It's not just as good. It's very, very good for what it is, but I wouldn't call it just as good. It's still definitely very nice. It's definitely worth the price point. But again, there are going to be some slight differences and trade-offs, and that's kind of how it goes, right? Same thing with watches. There are going to be some slight differences and trade-offs kind of depending on your tastes and what you value in terms of that value proposition. So, you know, all in all, guys, closing thoughts, another huge thank you to Anchor Strap Co. for really bravely sending such a diverse sampling over of their offerings for me to check out and you know, get into. And, you know, generally I keep these reviews quite positive because, yeah, that's, if you were to meet me out at a watch meetup, I would be being very positive. I wouldn't be nitpicking or, oh, I don't like the text on this, and here are the things that I hate about watches. I'd be talking about what I really enjoy about watches. But, you know, I do want to also make, you know, certain little mentions in terms of value proposition as somebody who's experienced some stuff that is a lot more on the higher end and also stuff a lot more on the affordable end. This definitely has more of an elevated build quality over a lot of the cheaper options that you're going to see out there. And that's awesome. I think this is a really nice balance of quality and design versus price point. Well, I think most brands either stick to one end of the spectrum, the pricing spectrum, or the other, right? Either focusing on high dollar premium straps or low dollar entry level straps. It seems like most brands kind of just stay where they're at with that, and they're very comfortable. So I think it's nice to see a brand kind of come in and offer something a bit more in the middle, right? With an elevated quality and design, for not as much of an elevated cost, which I think is cool. Like, of course, there are a lot of variations, again, similar, some that will look like this and maybe feel a little bit like it that will be cheaper, and there will be some that will look like this and feel a little bit like this that are going to be more expensive. And then they come across with stuff like this, where I think this is quite innovative, and again, it's quite affordable as well. And I think this is really, out of the bunch, I think this is probably going to be my favorite kind of design, is because it's thin, but it does have a lot of structure to it. It looks great. It has a, you know, a nice texture to it, a little bit of different sheen, and you have some really cool different options. And, you know, at the end of the day, there's a lot of different options in terms of, you know, how you can kind of pair this and remix it or whatever. So I think these are really cool. But with all that said, let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you liked the video, please do it like, and if you're already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.